Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode on the Sports Stories podcast. I'm your host Sage McSwain. And this episode, it's a little delayed. But I got my draft grades in. It's a little delayed, I know. Just had some stuff over the past 2 weeks, so I just haven't been able to record it all. But I was able to get my notes in for these grades and for these players and these picks. And overall, I think it was a pretty good draft class looking back on it. And there are some people that went in the first round that I think should have never gone in the first round. And there are some people that I was surprised that they fell in the second round. So let's go ahead and let's get right into it. So with the first pick in the draft, the Jaguars selected Travon Walker coming out of Georgia. Now this one actually really surprised me. They kind of avoided their safer pick in Aiden Hutchinson as a pure edge rusher. But Travon Walker's really good. He has athletic upside, and I think he has a really high ceiling. Again, really surprising. I thought they would have gone with Thibodeau or Hutchinson. Again, the argument with Hutchinson or Walker amongst the front office of the Jaguars was, came out pretty late, I guess, basically like 1 day before the draft. So, didn't really know who they were going to choose. Ended up picking up Travon Walker, who I don't think is a top 1 prospect, but went ahead and got him. I think they saw something in him. So as for this pick, I'm just going to give this a grade of a B. And with the second pick in the draft, the my Detroit Lions, selected Aiden Hutchinson coming out of Michigan. Great pick, okay? As a Michigan fan, it's great to see Aiden Hutchinson. Now, I am kind of worried about how he will do because neither of the Lions prospects look too happy to be with the Lions. So I wonder how it's gonna go. But Aiden Hutchinson, great pick. I think once everybody saw that Travon Walker was off the board, I think the very next pick was ideally gonna be Aiden Hutchinson or Kayvon Thibodeau. And this one just went to Aiden Hutchinson. And don't get me wrong, I think Travon Walker is a top 10 player in the draft, but I don't think he deserved to be number 1. Now, Aiden Hutchinson, he's a great player. I had him 3rd overall off my board. I think his skill level is going to be able to carry over very well to the NFL, especially since the Lions are running a 4-3 scheme due to Aaron Glenn carrying over that Saints defensive scheme. So I think it's going to be good. I think Aiden Hutchinson's a perfect fit for the 4-3 scheme. And overall, Aiden Hutchinson, a lot of people thought he was basically the top player in the draft. So as for that, I'm going to have to give the Lions an A for this pick. Okay, so next here, just looking at my notes. Next here, we have the number 3 pick, the Texans, selecting Derek Stingley Jr., coming out of LSU. The Texans have a lot of holes to fill, so the draft is a good start for them. Stingley had the best individual season of any draft-eligible cornerback, and it's even more impressive considering it came as an 18-year-old true freshman during LSU's title run. Unfortunately, his previous 2 seasons have been hampered by injuries and or play that has fallen short of the high level expected in 2019. In addition to superb ball skills, the 20-year-old Stingley immediately improves the Texans' pass defense if he remains healthy, and he has the potential to develop into one of the league's top cornerbacks. So overall, I think he's a really great cornerback. So overall, I'm gonna have to give the Texans a grade of a B here. Okay, so at number 4, the New York Jets selected Ahmad Gardner, cornerback coming out of Cincinnati. Now, Gardner is a lengthy corner with excellent length, tenacity, and confidence, making him ideal for press coverage. When asked if he will give up any touchdowns in the NFL, Gardner stated, "I don't have any plans on giving up one." Sauce had 3 interceptions in each of his 3 seasons in Cincinnati, and the Jets needed a cornerback upgrade. And he has the potential to be one of the best. Since Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs are both in the AFC East, Gardner should help slow them down. So as for this pick, I'm gonna have to give this an A-. Now with the number 5 pick, the New York Giants selected Kayvon Thibodeau, coming out of Oregon. And now Thibodeau not only has a strong 3-year career at Oregon with 19 sacks and 35.5 tackles for loss, but he also possesses an excellent combination of speed and strength. Thibodeau should rack up double-digit sacks early in his NFL career. Then, thanks to his explosiveness, his explosive first step and closing burst, and he provides the Giants another talented young pass rusher to go alongside Azeez Ojulari, who had 8 sacks as a rookie last season. Because he's a top 3 prospect, the Giants receive a good deal here, and I'm gonna have to give the pick a grade of an A. Now with the 6th pick, the Carolina Panthers selected Ikem Ekwonu, offensive tackle coming out of North Carolina State. Now, offensive lineman and quarterback were the Panthers' 2 most pressing needs heading into the draft. Instead of pursuing a quarterback, they opted for an offensive tackle on their choice and keep Ekwonu in North Carolina. Ekwonu is perhaps the greatest run-blocking offensive tackle available in this draft, and in recent years, Ekwonu has been dubbed Mr. Pancake because of his quick feet and mobility talents at the point of attack. Despite the fact that he occasionally oversets in pass protection, he possesses the attributes, intelligence, and temperament to continue to make considerable progress in that area. So as for this pick, I'm going to have to give the Panthers an A. With the 7th pick, the New York Giants selected Evan Neal, offensive lineman coming out of Alabama. Now, Neal brings versatility to the Giants, having started out at left guard, then right tackle, and then to left guard over the last 3 seasons. The former 5-star recruit possesses a remarkable combination of size, length, and power, but he moves with grace for a player of his stature. Neal is a bizarre athlete who came in first place on Bruce Feldman's yearly freaks list for the Athletic. Andrew Thomas, the Giants' left tackle, improved from his rookie season in 2021, but the offensive line required a boost at right tackle, which Neal offers immediately now. My top offensive lineman and number 1 pick was Neal, so I'm going to have to give this pick a grade of an A+. Now with the 8th pick, the Atlanta Falcons selected Drake London, wide receiver coming out of USC. Now London, a former basketball player for USC, makes good use of his enormous size to more box out players. So his strong hands and vast catch radius enable him to dominate at the catch point. London is still a young player, but he had a strong season last year, catching 88 passes for 1,084 yards and 7 touchdowns in just 8 games. He's a big body receiver who fits Arthur Smith's preferred type, and he immediately fills a gap at receiver after Calvin Ridley was suspended for 2022 and Russell Gage, who signed with the Buccaneers during the offseason. So for this pick, I'm going to have to give it a B+. Now for the 9th pick in the draft, the Seattle Seahawks selected Charles Cross, offensive lineman coming out of Mississippi State. Over the past 2 seasons, Cross has logged a lot of pass blocking reps, and the former 5-star recruit improved significantly from 2020 to 2021. The 2-year starter is long, athletic, balanced, and has good hand placement. All of his starts have come at left tackle, and he gives the Seahawks an immediate upgrade as a starting left tackle. Cross was my 9th pick in the draft, but many people thought he would have gone sooner. So for this pick, I'm going to have to give it a B+. Now with the 10th pick in the draft, the New York Jets selected Garrett Wilson, wide receiver coming out of Ohio State. While the Jets were unable to acquire Tyreek Hill, they do gain assistance for Zach Wilson from my second-ranked receiver in this class and 11th-ranked talent overall. Wilson, who is quick and elusive, did a 40-yard dash in Indianapolis that was faster than expected. He's a complete receiver who had 70 receptions for 1,058 yards and 12 touchdowns in 2021. I'm going to have to give this pick an A-. Now coming at the 11th pick, the New Orleans Saints selected Chris Olave, wide receiver coming out of Ohio State, just coming out right after Wilson. As one of the most polished route runners in this year's draft class, Olave stands out. He can be a weapon in the vertical passing game due to his quickness and ability to track the ball well. He set a school record for receiving touchdowns and averaged 15.4 yards per reception during his time at Ohio State. Olave is more of a backup receiver than a true number one, and he works nicely with Michael Thomas. The pick and team are a perfect combination, but the Saints had to give up a lot to get my third-ranked wide receiver and 13th ranked talent overall. Again, I mean, he is going to be pairing up with a former Ohio State wide receiver in Michael Thomas, so that's going to be interesting to look at. But for this one, I'm going to have to give the grade B-. Now with the 12th pick, the Detroit Lions selected Jameson Williams, wide receiver coming out of Alabama. After transferring to Alabama, Williams had a career season in 2021. Williams' track experience shows up on the field with his game-breaking speed. Even though he isn't only a deep danger, Williams is ahead of schedule in his recuperation despite tearing his ACL in January. Williams has the talent to emerge as the wide receiver one in this draft class, even if he misses time during the beginning of his rookie year. DJ Chark was signed to a one-year deal by the Lions, but Williams' speed makes him an excellent long-term complement to Amon-Ra St. Brown. So as for this pick, I'm going to have to give it a B. Now with the 13th pick, the Philadelphia Eagles selected Jordan Davis, defensive tackle coming out of Georgia. Now, Howie Roseman's decision to choose a defensive lineman with the first-round pick was unsurprising. Davis, who is physically intimidating and stout at the point of attack, gives Philadelphia's run defense a boost right away. His impact isn't always visible on the stat sheet, but he gives opportunities for his teammates. While he may start out as a two-down run stuffer, his excellent mobility should allow him to grow into a more disruptive player on the passing downs as his career progresses. So for this pick, I'm gonna have to give it a B. Now with the 14th pick, the Baltimore Ravens selected Kyle Hamilton, safety coming out of Notre Dame. With my fourth ranked player overall, the Ravens got a steal. Hamilton's timed 40-yard dashes were disappointing with a 4.59 at the combine and in the 4.7 range at Notre Dame's Pro Day, but he has exceptional range. Hamilton's agility, fluidity, smarts, and instincts allow him to make plays all over the field against the run and pass, thanks to a rare mix of size and length at the position. For this grade, I'm going to have to give the Baltimore Ravens an A+. Now with the 15th pick, the Houston Texans selected Kenyon Green, offensive guard coming out of Texas A&M. Now, Houston gained extra draft capital by trading down with a pass rusher on the board, being Jermaine Johnson, who I thought would be a good fit. The Texans went with Green, who appears to be a stretch. Green is a nice player with four-position versatility and toughness. I expect him to start working inside straight away. Other teams, on the other hand, thought that Green could go all the way through first round, if not even further. So, as for this pick, I'm going to have to give this a C-. Now coming at the 16th pick, the Washington Commanders, who got this pick from the New Orleans Saints, get Jahan Dotson, wide receiver coming out of Penn State. The Commanders spent a lot of time on Drake London and the Ohio State receivers, but they switched their focus to Dotson, who ended up being available lower than expected. The Commanders couldn't afford to allow another wide receiver to go off the board without them picking one up. Dotson catches everything and runs at a high rate, both inside and out. If Washington can save Carson Wentz, he has a lot of promise early on. As for this grade, I'm going to have to give it a C+. With the 17th pick, the Los Angeles Chargers select Zion Johnson, offensive guard coming out of Boston College. This is an intriguing pairing that I didn't expect to see. Johnson played tackle and guard at Boston College, but most NFL scouts thought he'd be better on the inside at guard or center. However, the Chargers' most pressing need on the offensive line is a right tackle. Johnson is a smart, knowledgeable, competitive, and high-character blocker, but I'll hold judgment on the position fit. Justin Herbert's offensive line has improved, but I still don't know where Johnson will line up. As for this grade, I'm going to have to give it a B-. Now with the 18th pick, the Tennessee Titans, who got this pick from the Philadelphia Eagles, select Treylon Burks, wide receiver coming out of Arkansas. Now the Titans traded away A.J. Brown to get the 18th pick, and Burks, a huge, physically gifted wideout who wins with force and desire, is a player with a comparable physique. Some have even compared him to A.J. Brown, although I'm not convinced about that. In college, Burks had a modest route tree with many of his touches pre-planned. Burks will benefit from having Robert Woods on his squad, but he may not be ready for a starting role right away. So as for this grade, I'm going to have to give it a C. Now with the 19th pick, the New Orleans Saints, who got this pick from the Philadelphia Eagles, select Trevor Penning, offensive tackle coming out of northern Iowa. As a defender, Penning is huge, tough, and a pain in the neck to deal with. He needs to improve his pass protection. He is prone to penalties and fills a significant vacuum with Teron Armstead gone. This is intriguing since he fulfills both a need and a disposition. I'm going to have to give this grade a B-. Now for the 20th pick, the Pittsburgh Steelers selected Kenny Pickett, quarterback coming out of Pittsburgh. Now there's debate about whether Pickett has the potential to outperform Malik Willis in the future. His college experience, high level of competition, solid athleticism, and arm strength made him an excellent match. Pickett has a chance to dethrone Mitch Trubisky early in the season and start for years. I'm going to have to give this grade a B. Now with the 21st pick, the Kansas City Chiefs, who got this pick from the Patriots, selected Trent Mcduffie, cornerback coming out of Washington. Now McDuffie is a hyper-competitive, he's a fast-running cover corner with a small physique and ball skills, and he's not the Washington corner I expected. A pass rusher or receiver appeared to be on the chopping block, but how can I complain about a trade-up here to obtain one of my favorite players? McDuffie has the enthusiasm of Tyrann Mathieu, which will work in Kansas City. I'm going to have to give this grade a B+. Now with the 22nd pick, the Green Bay Packers selected, this pick actually came from the Raiders in the Devonta Adams trade, and the Packers ended up selecting Quay Walker, linebacker coming out of Georgia. Now Jordan Davis, Nakobe Dean, Devonta Wyatt, Trayvon Walker, Lewis Seen, and Channing Tindall were among Georgia's future NFL players last season. Quay Walker is also a worthy addition to the mix. Walker's physique and personality attributes should transfer nicely to the NFL. After 4 years at Georgia, he became a starter. Georgia's heavy roster explains part of his slower than expected development, but he still had an impact on the special teams as a rotational player. Now Walker, though, while in the starting lineup, demonstrated a well-rounded skill set that drew the attention of NFL scouts and evaluators. Walker's size, length, and athleticism make him a perfect linebacker for the NFL. He also covers a lot of territory from sideline to sideline. Walker might not be the most exciting prospect to emerge from Georgia's illustrious defense. He is nevertheless a team player with a great upside due to his athletic profile. The Green Bay Packers' strategy with the 22nd overall pick was undoubtedly influenced by the lack of wideouts, which went earlier in the draft. Instead, GM Brian Gutekunst focused on the defensive side of the ball, where he found a running mate for Devondre Campbell, who had been re-signed. Quay will pair up with Devondre Campbell to provide the Packers two off-ball linebackers capable of covering a lot of territory. Walker was a part of a similar system at Georgia, which will aid his transition to the Packers. The Packers, on the other hand, had their pick of linebackers. Walker is a physically gifted athlete with a lot of room for improvement. He wasn't the greatest linebacker in the class, though. On the Bulldogs defense, he wasn't even the best linebacker, so I'm going to have to give this grade a D. Now with the 23rd the Buffalo Bills, getting this pick from Baltimore, select Kair, cornerback coming out of Florida. Now, because of the circumstances in which they find themselves, some draft possibilities fall off the board or even fall off the radar. Kair of Florida appeared to be a first-round cornerback candidate heading into the 2021 season. Last season, he did nothing to jeopardize his standing, but the Gators struggled, finishing with an unimpressive 6-7 record. As a result, Alam didn't get the same amount of attention as the other candidates in his class. His pre-draft performances, on the other hand, kind of put him back into the conversation with the other top cornerbacks. Over the last three seasons, no Power 5 cornerback has outperformed Alam. He led all Power 5 corners in allowing only a 55.6% or 55.6 passer rating into his coverage, according to Pro Football Focus. Alam didn't have the same level of success in 2021 that he had in prior seasons. Despite this, scouts had 30 career games to assess. The former Gators' early success, combined with his physical profile and his really good size, makes him one of the best corners in this class. Levi Wallace has started opposite of Tre'Davious White for the Buffalo Bills for the past 3.5 years. Wallace came into the league as an undrafted free agent and quickly secured a starting role, despite the fact that the Bills never brought in anyone to challenge him. Wallace ended up joining the Pittsburgh Steelers during the offseason, promoting Buffalo to using another first-round pick on a cornerback in Elam. Elam's stature and length provide a refreshing change of pace from the Bills' past options at the position. There were no major flaws in the franchise from a macro perspective. The only position where an upgrade appeared to be required was cornerback. To ensure that the situation was appropriately assessed, the Bills leapfrogged the Dallas Cowboys and I think for this pick I'm gonna have to give it a B. Now with the 24th pick, the Dallas Cowboys selected Tyler Smith, offensive tackle coming out of Tulsa. Now, traits are always important in the evaluation process. Physical and translatable features can be divided into two categories. Tyler Smith of Tulsa possesses the inherent ability that organizations look for in a future starting tackle. Skills exhibited on screen that appear to be transferable to the real world are known as translatable qualities. To Smith's credit, he's a visibly strong attacker and a ferocious blocker. The reps completed at center, lineman clamps his hand onto a defender. Smith's technique, on the other hand, may be his undoing. Smith has low leverage and has trouble aiming points in pass sets and has wild hands and appears to be a future holding machine. To be fair, raw talent is appealing and coaches always believe that they can get them out of any kid, even if they have a long way to go. Technically, Smith has the perfect appearance and demeanor. However, he may not be ready for the rigors of being an NFL blindside protector and may begin his career at guard until some of his rough edges are smoothed out. Dallas is arguably the greatest place for Smith to lend out all the fall in his options. No one can deny, though, that he still has a long way to go before his performance matures. His promise as a substitute for Connor Williams, Smith will most likely go inside the guard. For the routine, the opportunity to play with Tyron Smith should be a bonus. A move to the interior will also shield the younger Smith, who is a technical disaster. The Cowboys' offensive line has been excellent in previous years, but they needed a boost of youth. The 21-year-old brings a lot of potential. He's also a huge work in progress with weaknesses that many initially exceed his talents, which will be a learning job. So I'm going to have to give this pick a grade of a C-. Now with the 25th pick, the Baltimore Ravens selected center Tyler Linderbaum coming out of Iowa. Now, PFF has rated Linderbaum as the best center prospect they have ever seen. He may be small, but he's a super athlete who plays much bigger than his stature suggests. Linderbaum was a top 5 greatest center in each of his 3 seasons at the position, including a single season grading record for a center in 2021. The greatest fit for the Iowa prospect would undoubtedly be in a zone heavy running attack, but that isn't the case here. The pick does make sense. The combination with Baltimore, which runs a gap, bus system, gap-based system, which is going to be very intriguing to watch. So I'm going to have to give this pick a grade of a B+. Now at the 26th pick, the New York Jets, who traded with the Tennessee Titans to get this pick, selected Jermaine Johnson II, coming out of Florida State. Now, the Jets were rumored to be considering Johnson with their number 4th overall pick, but after moving up with Tennessee, they were able to get him at number 26. The Florida State and former Georgia and JUCO prospect was one of the most impressive performers at the Senior Bowl, impressing scouts so much that he skipped the final day of practice and the game itself. Last season, he had multiple pressures in every game for Florida State, and he finished the season with an 81 PFF grade, so for this pick, I'm going to have to give it an A-. Now, with the 27th pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars, who were able to trade with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, selected linebacker Devin Lloyd, coming out of Utah. Now, Jacksonville moved up to the 27th overall pick in the draft to get Lloyd, who was ranked number 17th on my board, and was my favorite linebacker to come off the board first. Now, with Lloyd's game as a prospect, there are a few nits to pick. He is a quick, perceptive, and possesses the frame and physicality that the NFL seeks. In 2021, Lloyd was one of just 4 players at the position to receive a PFF grade of 90 or above. He had an 80 grade in his defense, coverage, and as a blitzer. So as for this grade, I'm going to have to give it a B+. Now with the 28th pick, the Packers selected Devonta Wyatt, defensive tackle coming out of Georgia. Now, Wyatt has the potential to be a unique player. He has some character issues, but he was a productive defensive player. I got that the Packers fans were hoping for a receiver, but he is a player that can help a defensive line. I think this was a good pick. Overall, I'm going to have to give it a B+. Now with the 29th pick, the Patriots select the Patriots got this pick from the Chiefs. The Patriots select Cole Strange, guard coming out of Chattanooga. They select the right guard replacement for Shaq Mason. This may be a little too high for him, but it does meet a need. They become younger and less expensive. I'm going to have to give this grade a C. Now with the 30th pick, the Chiefs select George Karlaftis, coming out of Purdue. Now the Chiefs selection is fantastic. They needed pass rush help, and this youngster can provide it. He's a player who puts in a lot of effort all of the time. The Chiefs wanted to put more pressure on the Bills and the other AFC West teams, which they're most likely going to have to do if they want to beat them. This is an excellent choice, so I'm going to have to give this pick an A. Now with the 31st pick, the Bengals select Daxton Hill, safety coming out of Michigan. This is a solid choice because they have contract difficulties with their safeties coming up. He also has the ability to play cornerback, which he may use to aid with coverage. They like him since he's a versatile player. You better cover if you want to beat the Chiefs, Bills, and the rest of the AFC. So as for this pick, I'm going to have to give it a B-. Now with the 32nd pick, the Vikings, who got this selection from the Detroit Lions, select Lewis Cine, safety out of Georgia. They need a safety to complement Harrison Smith, who's growing older. Cine is a good player who will cover and hit you. In the back end, he possesses the range you prefer. This is a great option, and I'm going to have to give this pick a B+. Now, after I just gave all the grades for all 32 picks in the first round, these are my top 5 worst drafts that happened on that first day. Now, number one, have to give it to the Packers. I mean, they chose two defensive players who aren't bad. Quay Walker was definitely a weird one. Again, I don't think he was really, one of the greater linebackers in the Georgia team. So I don't really know why they went with him, especially Jermaine Johnson was still on the board. And Devin Lloyd was still on the board, too, who I think was actually the best linebacker prospect in this draft. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong, the Packers needed some defensive help because that defense is getting a little bit older, but they could have gotten a wide receiver. There were a couple wide receivers that were picked pretty early on in the second round, which I think they could have got. I believe they did get a wide receiver on the second day or third day, but definitely was not, top wide receiver talent, especially since the Vikings did trade down 20 spots with the Lions, and the Packers could have easily done that. I mean, they had 2 draft picks in the first round, which they could have possibly given up, or just even one of them in the 20th range. I think the Vikings would have gone, but the Lions were able to trade with the Vikings for the 12th pick, trading up 20 spots. The Packers could have just done that, gotten Jameson Williams, or I think Jahan Dotson would have still been on the board, if I'm correct. I mean, they could have gotten one of those 2 wide receivers who were, considered, Jameson Williams considered the best wide receiver in this draft class, and they didn't even try to trade up for a wide receiver. And, now they still had that hole to fill with Devonta Adams gone. So I think overall, the Packers is probably one of the top worst draft classes. And now coming at my second spot, I'm going to have the Houston Texans. Now don't get me wrong. I think Derek Stingley is a good prospect. It's mainly what they decided to do with their prior pick, or with their later pick, I guess I should say, with Kenyon Green. Now, I think they still could have gotten an edge. Again, Jermaine Johnson is a big name here that a lot of teams did not pick up. And maybe it does look like there's a possibility with his attitude. A lot of people don't really like him. But again, they could have gone with an edge. Or even George Karlaftis, who's a really great player. I think, still a late round pick. It would have been a little bit of a stretch, but I think it's still a good pick. And they really could have gotten an edge. Again, the offensive line does need a lot of help. But I think it's better to fix some things that could easily be fixed if you get a draft prospect here. So they had a good pick with Derek Stingley, but then they kind of backtracked once they got Kenyon Green. Now next on this list, my third top worst draft class, I have the Dallas Cowboys. They got Tyler Smith, offensive lineman. It makes sense, but I think the Cowboys offensive line was just already so good. I don't really know what they needed help on. But overall, I don't know. I think it wasn't really the best pick. I feel like they could have had more. Could have gotten a cornerback. I'm not really too sure, but the Dallas Cowboys just didn't have the best pick in this draft. Okay, now at this 4th spot, I think by far one of the biggest L's in this draft was the Tennessee Titans. Okay, they traded away one of their best wide receivers for practically Treylon Burks, okay? Now, don't get me wrong, I think Treylon Burks is a great pick. I think I had him going as one of the later picks in the first round. But to trade away one of your better players for the 18th pick, who they probably could have still gotten him possibly, further down, or they could have even traded with the Cowboys for Treylon Burks. So, really, I think it just wasn't the greatest pick. You trade away A.J. Brown, your best wide receiver, and Treylon Burks, who hasn't really proven himself in the league, so who really knows what's going to happen. If he does do better than A.J. Brown, well, then you can come back to this video and say that I was wrong. But I think A.J. Brown is just such a good he's just such a good wide receiver. And the Eagles, by far, that was great. Basically a finesse, okay? Because now they're getting some success here. They're able to make the playoffs with basically nobody. Okay, so as for this one, I think the Titans really lost that one. Their RPO offense is definitely going to be hurting, especially since now they don't have Julio Jones or A.J. Brown. So don't really know what they're going to do. I think that run attack with Derrick Henry is just not going to be that good. So by far, I think Tennessee Titans took one of the biggest L's on that first day for the draft. And then coming in last, or at least my top 5 worst draft class, with number 5, we have the New England Patriots. Now, I think this is kind of self-explanatory. We all know that Bill Belichick cannot draft unless it is like the 6th round, okay? And, except that, the one exception with Mac Jones, but they were picking pretty high in the first round, so it would have been kind of hard to pick somebody terrible. Now, they're picking again late into the first round, and they decided to get an offensive lineman out of Chattanooga. I mean, nobody knew who this guy was. Nobody knew, why they were drafted. No, everybody was confused. So, by far, I think the Patriots had one of the worst draft selections of the season. Now, moving on from the worst drafts, let's move on to the top 5 best drafts. And at number 1, I have to give the New York Giants their props. Okay, I have to. Let me put this mic down. I have to clap for them, okay? Because this was a great draft class. I mean, they at number 5, they were able to get Kayvon Thibodeau somehow, okay? Top 3 prospect. They were able to get at number 5. And then they were able to get who I think is the best offensive lineman, a top 1 prospect, okay? Evan Neal. Evan Neal is, talk about setting up your future. I think Evan Neal is going to be great with the Giants. Saquon Barkley is definitely going to prosper with more offensive linemen. And Kayvon Thibodeau, I think, is going to be a great addition to that defensive line, which they really need to, bulk up. So I think overall the Giants had one of the best draft classes, in a while for the Giants organization. So give them props for that pick. Now, the Baltimore Ravens coming at second on my top 5 list. They were able to get Kyle Hamilton, who I think was a top 5 prospect. They were able to get him at 14, and then I believe they traded up or down. I don't remember, but they got Tyler Linderbaum, who is one of the best centers in this draft class. So I think overall the Ravens are really good. I think they need to beef up that offensive line, and then now, also helping out that defense, who was really injury prone last season with a lot of players going out. Definitely getting more depth and some good depth at that. So I think overall, really great draft class, getting Kyle Hamilton and Tyler Linderbaum. Now, next at number 3 spot for the top 5 best drafts, I have the Detroit Lions. Now, it is kind of hard to, kind of fail with a second overall pick. I think Aiden Hutchinson, obviously, I think he's going to be a great player. So it's kind of self-explanatory as of that. And then the finesse, the fleece that they pulled with the Vikings for the 12th pick. For the 12th, they just finessed them, okay? There's straight fleece. Give me that, boom, 12th pick. Let's get the best wide receiver in this draft class. Easy dub. They were able to get him. I think the Lions, they pulled some stuff off, and it was great to see. Unfortunately, later on in the draft, they did not get a quarterback, so I'm kind of worried how Jameson Williams' career will go with the 1 year of Jared Goff, but I think overall, decent. I can see the Lions tanking still here for C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young. Now, with the 4th spot on my top 5 best drafts, I have the Carolina Panthers. I think the Panthers had one of, a pretty good pick. Ike Ekwonu, even though they didn't get Evan Neal. Ike Ekwonu was tied with Evan Neal, I believe, for pressure rate percentage. So they're definitely, they're doing their research. But I think he's the second best offensive lineman of this draft class. So I don't think he was the best selection here, but I think it was definitely a really good selection for the Panthers. They needed some offensive line help to help Christian McCaffrey, and then also, help Sam Darnold. Being able to have more time in the pocket will always be great for the team. Now, with the last spot in the top 5 best drafts, at the number 5 spot, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. I think the Kansas City Chiefs I think they had a pretty under the radar good draft. So they were able to trade up for Trent McDuffie, who I didn't agree with the trade up. I think Trent McDuffie would have still been available at the 30th pick, 29th. I don't really know what they had. They had a pick. No, it was 31st. No. Was it 31st? I don't know who they had, but no, they traded with the Patriots. So, yeah, it was still late, but I think Trent McDuffie still would have been on the board. So I think it still would have worked for them. And then they were still able to keep that 30th draft pick, and then they were able to get George Karlaftis, so I think it was a steal, absolute steal with the 30th pick. So overall, great draft with the Chiefs, and I think it's going to be very good in the long run. And that'll be all for today's episode. Thank you for listening or watching all the way through. Make sure, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and share it to anybody you think would like it. And if you're listening to this, make sure you leave a follow, good rating if possible, and share the episode with anybody you think would be interested in hearing their team's favorite draft grades. As of that, thank you, and have a great rest of your day.